the psychology of people who treat their birthday like a normal day. Do you celebrate your birthday?
Let me ask you something simple but quietly powerful. When was the last time you actually felt your birthday? Not just acknowledged it, not just replied thanks to a few messages, but truly felt it. The way you did when
I have a really historically, my birthday has always been like a really bad day. So like maybe elementary school, like when I was a kid. I would like to do stuff on my birthday, but like it's pretty much just like a normal day.
you were a child. The way your heart
I
used
every single time I wanted to do something on my birthday, make an event or something like that, something bad always happens and makes it like the worst day ever. After like I got over all that, aka after like high school, I just like treat it as like just a normal day because if I try to set something up for it or try to do something or like actually treat it like a birthday, I have this like overwhelming anxiety of like something will go wrong for that day and it'll ruin the entire day because that's what happened to me
to
before.
thump with excitement at the thought of balloons, cake, and everyone's eyes turning toward you for one small, sacred day. Now fast forward to adulthood. The same date comes and goes, but it feels like any other day. You wake up, maybe get a few notifications,
I
maybe your
barely
mum
even get
calls,
those.
and then you move on. You tell people you don't really celebrate. You say you don't care. You say it's just another day. But is it really? Because underneath that nonchalance, underneath that casual shrug, there's often a quiet story.
Mm.
People who treat their birthday like a normal day aren't cold, emotionless, or detached. In fact, often they're the most reflective ones. The ones who have learned to hide their expectations because disappointment
Yeah.
taught them to.
Yeah,
But-
like what I just said is like if I don't expect anything on that day, and then most of the time it'll be fine. Like then I have to treat it like a normal day. Yeah.
Psychologically, birthdays are emotional mirrors. They reflect how you feel about being alive, how you relate to attention, and how comfortable you are being seen. When someone says, "I don't care about my birthday," what they're often saying is, "I don't need validation anymore."
Type
But sometimes what they mean is, "I stopped expecting it." There's a difference between maturity and emotional withdrawal. And
Yeah, you
birthdays
barely
have
get
a strange way
any
of showing
rewards
us
for
which
leveling
one
up,
we've leaned
yeah.
into.
Same.
Some people genuinely grow out of birthday excitement, not out of sadness, but out of peace. They've found meaning in ordinary days, in routines, in quiet moments.
I still haven't found like my point of life, I should say.
To them, joy isn't confined to a calendar date. They've learned that life itself is the celebration.
I don't have that perspective, but I can understand it.
But for others, the story is different. For them, birthdays are quietly complicated. They might bring up subtle anxiety, not because of age, but because of memory. Maybe birthdays remind them of moments when they felt forgotten, or maybe they once cared too much and got hurt by unmet expectations. So instead of saying, "This year I hope someone remembers," they say, "It's just another day." It's protection disguised as indifference.
True.
And that's where the psychology gets fascinating.
True.
Because it tells us how the mind adapts. When we
Yeah, saying like just another day is just a condom before your day gets fucked. So yeah.
feel repeated emotional letdowns, the brain begins to lower the bar. It's called emotional self-protection. You reduce anticipation to avoid disappointment. You teach yourself not to hope too loud. And while that might sound sad, it's actually a form of emotional intelligence, a way of maintaining balance. The brain prioritizes stability over excitement, when excitement has often led to pain. But here's the twist. Over time, that same self-protection can quietly dull joy.
Like, yeah, obviously true. But would you feel more comfortable knowing what's going to happen tomorrow? Or it's like people would, obviously. You would feel a lot more comfortable, like what's gonna happen tomorrow. Like if you have a plan tomorrow that's like concrete plan, that like, okay, I'm going to be doing this tomorrow. You feel a lot more comfortable going into the next day versus someone who doesn't plan anything every single day. Is like another layer of anxiety of what's going to happen, or other people going to act different, or is this going to happen, or blah, 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 blah. It's just like a knowledge gap.
The
you know,
heart that
it's a knowledge and like perspective gap, I guess.
once shielded itself becomes a little too careful.
I don't
You
know what
start
I'm
walking
trying to
through your
mean by
own
it.
life like a guest at someone else's party. Polite, observant, but distant. Think about how many people smile and say, "Oh, I don't really do birthdays." But later, they quietly replay the day in their mind, noticing who didn't message, who forgot, who said nothing. We all do it, even the ones who claim they don't care, because caring is human. Even pretending not to care is a form of caring, just inverted, compressed, hidden under a shell of composure. Psychologists call this avoidant validation behavior. It's when you convince yourself you don't need recognition, because part of you fears not getting it. And it often develops in people who, at some point, learned that emotional needs were inconvenient, that it was easier to need nothing than to be disappointed again. So when you meet someone who treats their birthday like any other day, don't assume they're emotionally detached. Sometimes they've just made peace with disappointment. They've traded excitement for control.
Or they made peace with themselves.
But control has a cost, because underneath the calm surface of "it's just another day" lies an emotional truth. We all want to be seen, not praised, not celebrated in grand gestures, but seen, genuinely. There's something deeply symbolic about birthdays. They mark existence itself, the one day a year that belongs entirely to you, not for what you've achieved, not for who you're with, but simply because you exist. And for many people, that reminder brings mixed emotions. Some feel gratitude, others feel loneliness, some feel both at once, like a strange cocktail of nostalgia and indifference. It's because birthdays, whether we realize it or not, remind us of time. They remind us how far we've come and how far we haven't. That's the silent psychological trigger most people overlook. For some, treating their birthday like a normal day is their way of staying emotionally grounded. It's their way of keeping time from feeling too heavy.
Yeah, like I said, like my birthday is, I would like to make it a cool event day, but like the anxiety of past birthdays historically being a really bad day. Like historically, my birthday is like the day that I cried the most. Like I have like a very emotional breakdown either of forgottenness or people don't care or whatever reason that would be in the self-doubt, but also it's like most of the time it's because like something fell through for my day, you know? Like something fell through. It's like something that I planned for this day, that I wanted to do something on this day, or a group of people wanted to do on this day and I wanted to join or whatever to celebrate my birthday, fell through a lot of the time. Well, every time, pretty much. Pretty much every single time I have tried doing something on my birthday, it has always fallen through. So that's built up of years and years and years of doing that. I now have a resentment for my birthday, or not a resentment, just a strong anxiety for it.
I don't make it a big deal, they think. Then it won't feel like another year slipping away. There's also something cultural about this shift. In childhood, birthdays are social milestones. They connect us to belonging. But in adulthood, that spotlight often feels strange. Many adults quietly wrestle with the tension between wanting to be noticed and wanting to avoid seeming needy. And that inner tug of war shows up subtly in how they treat their own birthday. Because here's what happens beneath the surface. When you grow up being the responsible one, the strong one, or the giver, your mind internalizes a message. Your joy comes second. You learn to downplay your needs. You become the one who remembers everyone else's day, but forgets your own. And over time, your birthday starts to feel irrelevant. You're not even sure what you'd do if someone planned something big. It feels awkward, maybe even unnecessary. But the truth is that discomfort with being celebrated isn't humility. It's emotional fatigue. Deep down, many of these people still crave to feel seen, but not in the loud way. They don't want attention. They want understanding. They want someone to remember not just their date of birth, but who they've been becoming all year. Because that's the paradox of emotional maturity. The more emotionally self-reliant you become, the harder it feels to receive love without suspicion. So birthdays become neutral zones, places where vulnerability would normally surface, but gets replaced by practicality.
Yeah.
It's fine, you say. Let's just get through the day. But behind that quiet tone, the mind is processing dozens of emotions. Nostalgia for childhood excitement, subtle sadness at lost connections, gratitude for survival, and a soft longing for simplicity, for the kind of joy that used to come effortlessly. That's what makes this psychology so universal.
Who's the artist of all these? These are really cool. I really like these paintings.
Even if you think you've outgrown birthdays, part of you still remembers what it felt like to be celebrated without hesitation. There's also a layer of existential reflection that psychologists have observed in adults around their birthdays, something called temporal self-awareness. It's the moment you look back at the person you were a year ago and quietly measure the gap between who you wanted to be and who you are now.
How many of you look back on videos or pictures of yourself from years ago? I constantly do this. Maybe it might be an egotistical or narcissist thing, or a moment of self-reflection. How I see personally, acknowledging how much I have grown since the media that I'm watching. It's I watch a lot of my old videos a lot of the time. A lot of my old TikToks or videos that I have or music that I have, and I like seeing how much I have changed since. It gives me a lot more confidence and self-aware of how good I am at doing something, because I don't really get that validation that much from other people. So I at least making myself proud if no one else wants to be proud of me, you know?
And sometimes that gap is uncomfortable. That's why for some people, birthdays feel like mirrors, not parties.
Yeah, and sometimes, when I do look at old photos of myself, I don't really like looking at photos. I don't really take photos. When I do look at old photos of myself, or old videos, or old music of myself, sometimes I'm oh, I'm just ass. I just can't. It just depends on, what your mood and perspective is of that day at the time that you do review that media.
They highlight the silent distance between expectation and reality. And rather than face that reflection, people prefer to downplay the day altogether. But it's not apathy. It's introspection. It's the human mind saying, give me space to process my own timeline. So if you've ever felt strange about your birthday, like you're supposed to feel something you don't, know that it's normal. You're not ungrateful or detached. You're simply aware. You're aware that time is moving. You're aware that validation feels different now. You're aware that celebration means something deeper than cake and candles. Because birthdays are never really about age. They're about meaning. And the older we get, the more personal that meaning becomes. When you were a kid, your birthday was about the world recognizing you. When you're an adult, it's about you recognizing yourself.
Yeah.
It's less about presents and more about presence. Less about who shows up and more about how much of you has shown up in your own life.
Bars.
That's the subtle shift most people don't talk about. And yet, it explains everything about why we stopped making a big deal out of it. Because maybe we've stopped trying to be celebrated by the world and started trying to make peace with our own journey. But even in that peace, there's an echo, a quiet voice that says, I hope someone still remembers. That's the paradox of emotional evolution. You can be content and still crave connection. You can be grounded and still miss the thrill of being seen. And that's okay. That's human. Because treating your birthday like a normal day doesn't mean you're numb. It means you've learned that joy isn't something to be scheduled. It's something you carry quietly, every day, in the small ways you keep showing up for yourself. It's the softest kind of celebration, invisible but real. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The deeper layer most people never realize.
What?
When someone treats their birthday like a normal day, they're not rejecting joy. They're redefining it. They're saying, I no longer need the world's permission to feel good about being alive. And that shift from external celebration to internal acknowledgement marks one of the quietest forms of maturity. Because somewhere along the road, we all start to learn that the things which once made us feel special, gifts, parties, posts, begin to lose their glow. What starts to matter more is
I was going to
alignment.
say I start to lose meaning.
Did I live this year in a way that feels true? Did I grow? Did I show up when it mattered? For many people,
I think that perspective right there, it's like how much did I grow, etc. When you actively look back on yourself, like yearly, for example, it's like, oh, how well did my company or my channel or my product grown in the past year? I personally, I don't look at the numbers wise. I just don't care, right? I would never care about numbers. I like looking at them, but I don't have any emotional attachment towards numbers. Because I have gotten a lot of numbers before. Obviously, I've gotten, like, no numbers at all. I still feel the same. It's like I've learned to not care about numbers of my own product to define how I feel. You know, I've learned that over the years.
a birthday becomes
I learned
less
that pretty
about
early on
noise
compared to everyone
and
else,
more
so.
about reflection. It's not that they don't care, it's that their definition of celebration has changed. Maybe their celebration now looks like going for a walk alone, cooking their favorite meal, or taking a quiet day
I
off
think
to
it's just
think.
doing something that you
It's
like.
not the loud joy of balloons, it's the soft joy of solitude. And that's something our culture often misunderstands. We confuse quiet with emptiness, but silence can be sacred. In psychology, this is connected to something called self-concordant motivation. When your values and your actions begin to match, you experience a deeper sense of fulfillment, even without external validation. So when someone spends their birthday quietly, it's not apathy, it's alignment. They're no longer chasing the kind of celebration that's loud, fleeting, and performative.
Mm-hmm.
They've replaced it with something steady, self-trust, but still there's an emotional undercurrent that flows beneath that peace. Because while some people truly feel content spending their birthday like a normal day, others quietly wish they didn't have to. They wish someone else would take the initiative. They wish they didn't have to pretend that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's like that's kind of where I am at. That like I wish other people, it's like people do acknowledge my birthday, but I feel like it's out of a mandatory thing. They're like, oh, you have to tell your sister or your brother or your family member happy birthday. I don't personally. It's like I try to, okay, but I'm just not very good with dates in general, unless like it's very close to like things that I've done in my life, the dates that I remember in my mind, right? Which is usually around like the February to May section of the year. That's usually my like memory span. So if your birthday is not in that like couple months like period, like being May is being generous, by the way, then if you're outside of that, it's like out of sight, out of mind. Out of this range, you're not a thing anymore, essentially.
And that tension between wanting to be seen and wanting to seem unbothered is one of the most human contradictions.
And also what I was going to say is I wish other people took the initiative on my birthday as well, right? Actually invited me out to do something for my birthday, right? Instead of you want to do something, but like having it a birthday special thing. I think that's what like a lot of adults wish they had, you know, because when you're a kid, it's usually, this is my birthday, I'm doing this, right? Instead of you're an adult and sometimes you just have to work. That's just what your birthday is, you know?
There is. We all have it. The longing to be noticed without asking. The desire to be celebrated without requesting space for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's that universal ache between independence and intimacy. Psychologically, this is tied to something called earned secure attachment. When people have gone through emotional disappointments, maybe growing up in environments where affection was inconsistent or conditional, they learn to depend on themselves. But even self-sufficient people carry a quiet hope that someone will see through the armor. So, a birthday becomes a subtle test. Not one you announce, but one your mind quietly observes. Who remembered? Who reached out without a reminder?
Yeah.
Who still sees you when you're not visible? And even if you tell yourself it doesn't matter, a small part of you still checks. That's not weakness, that's humanity. Because no matter how self-aware or emotionally independent we become, we never outgrow the need for connection. We just get better at hiding it. There's also a fascinating paradox in how people relate to time on their birthdays.
Also, a lot of people, like he has explained earlier, it's like people are just content, like their birthdays, you know?
For some, it feels like progress. For others, pressure. And the brain processes that pressure differently depending on your emotional history. If your past years have been fulfilling, Birthdays feel like milestones, but if the last year has been heavy or confusing, a birthday can feel like a subtle confrontation with yourself.
Yeah.
A reminder that another year has passed and the questions you haven't answered are still waiting. That's why many people prefer to blur the day into the rest of the week. It's not denial, it's self-preservation. It's saying, I'll reflect when I'm ready. But even in that quiet, the day carries weight. It stirs memory, gratitude, regret, nostalgia, all at once. It's like your subconscious takes inventory of everything that's changed and everything that hasn't. And in that internal dialogue, something powerful happens. You realize that birthdays, stripped of all tradition and expectation, are actually checkpoints of consciousness. They force you to pause even for a moment and ask, am I living honestly? Am I still becoming someone I recognize? Do I like the story I'm telling with my life? When you treat your birthday like a normal day, it doesn't mean you're avoiding those questions. It might actually mean you're facing them, quietly, privately, without an audience. Because not every kind of growth needs to be broadcast.
Yeah, I would very much recommend, this goes for a lot of like Twitter users, is stop telling your emotions to everyone and only tell them to yourself, and try to talk yourself through those emotions instead of either having someone else tell you your emotions and your thoughts, or when you put your thoughts out, the responses that you get dictate your behavior. I think it is very, very important to sit down with yourself and talk to yourself or think to yourself, confront yourself with your emotions, status, life situation, whatever it is. Have a real, true conversation with yourself every once in a while. That is the best way of therapy, personally. Within my experience, it has been.
Some growth is invisible. It's in the way you react differently than you used to. It's in the way you forgive faster, complain less, or find beauty in moments that once went unnoticed. And maybe that's the truest kind of celebration.
Like I complained a lot
when
less
you don't
now.
need the day to feel extraordinary, because you've learned to find the extraordinary inside the ordinary. Still, there's a gentle truth worth remembering. Even the most self-sufficient souls still deserve to feel special once in a while. Not because they need validation, but because recognition nourishes the parts of us that carry others. The ones who treat their birthdays like any other day are often the same people who hold space for everyone else's milestones. They're the quiet anchors in their circles, the ones who remember your important dates, who check on you first, who give without keeping score. And sometimes those people forget that they too deserve light, that it's okay to let others give back, that you don't have to earn joy by being strong all year, because
Yeah, like every single time I like talk to a person or I try to give someone to something, because I'm a giver. I like giving people things. I like making things for other people or buying other things for other people. I am very much a giver, but I've always been okay with receiving, right? But I have met a lot of people who only like giving and I hate receiving. I've met a lot of people that are like that. It's like, oh, don't stop giving me, stop giving me. I don't know how to react to it. It's like those kind of people need to have a little bit more self-worth. Just learn to accept. Just learn to accept. It's okay if like you don't feel a strong emotion of this gift. This person wanted to give something to you for acknowledgement or love or whatever. That doesn't mean you have to give back or keep a score or however you negatively see that situation. It's good to just receive a gift and just cherish it, you know? You don't have to always use it and flaunt it. What's the word? Be stable with your emotions when you do receive something and or give something.
even the calmest souls still need warmth. Even the independent hearts still need to be seen, not for what they do, but for who they are. There's nothing wrong with wanting that. There's nothing weak about missing it. If you've ever felt that quiet ache on your birthday, the kind that doesn't demand attention but still hums beneath your chest, that's your heart reminding you that connection still matters. It's reminding you that you're human, and that's the whole point of the day. It's not to celebrate perfection or achievement, it's to celebrate the fact that you're still here, still learning,
Connections are
still
very
evolving,
important.
still trying to make sense of what it means to live. So maybe the psychology of people who treat their birthday like a normal day isn't about indifference at all. Maybe it's about integration, the merging of joy and reflection, the acceptance that not every emotion has to be loud to be real. And yet, even in
True.
that peace, there's space for small gestures, because one text can still make someone's day. One voice note, one call, one moment of presence. We underestimate how much those tiny acknowledgements mean to someone who says, "It's just another day." To them, it's not about the size of the celebration, it's about sincerity. It's about being reminded that their quiet existence still ripples outward, still matters to someone. And maybe that's the real psychology of it all, that deep down, none of us truly want to be invisible. We just want to be loved in the language we understand. Some people want fireworks, others just want peace. Some people want surprises, others want consistency.
Real.
Some people want crowds, others want one person who listens. And that's okay. There's no right way to experience your own existence. So if your birthday feels ordinary, if you went to work, made your coffee, checked your messages and carried on, maybe that's not something to fix. Maybe it's something to honor, because what you're really saying is, my life is already full enough to not need one day to make it meaningful. That's not detachment, that's gratitude in disguise. But at the same time, let yourself be soft. If you miss the excitement you once had, it's okay to feel that too. Missing your younger self doesn't mean you've regressed. It means you're remembering what innocence felt like before the world taught you restraint. And perhaps that's the greatest gift you can give yourself on your birthday, to remember the child who once counted down to midnight with glowing eyes, who believed that one day could hold infinite magic. Because that child is still somewhere inside you, waiting not for a party, but for acknowledgement.
Real.
Waiting for you to whisper, "Hey, I see you. We made it another year." That's the kind of celebration that doesn't fade when the candles go out. That's the kind that stays with you. So if your birthday ever feels like just another day, don't feel guilty for it. It's not emptiness, it's evolution. It's the mind learning that meaning doesn't need noise. And yet, in the quiet, if someone remembers, let them. Let them say your name. Let them remind you that you matter, because you do, even on the days that feel ordinary. Even when you treat your birthday like a normal day. Especially then, because maybe that's the most beautiful thing about growing up. Learning that celebration doesn't always need confetti. Sometimes it just needs awareness, a moment of stillness, a deep breath. You don't have to make a wish. You already are one, a living continuation of every version of yourself that made it here. And that's worth celebrating, quietly or not, every single year.
That's the most emotions he has put in the entire video, and that is a W video. The psychology of the people who treat their birthdays like a normal day. By Key, 100% like the video, subscribe to Key, 100%. This guy is very, very soothing